Welcome to the New School of Marketing podcast, the place for smart, simple strategies that will amplify your business results. Sharing practical tips, insider knowledge, and actionable advice because marketing is something that every business owner can do. Now, let's get started. Introducing your host, Bianca McKenzie, mum, lover of snow sports, camping, horse riding, and in-demand launch strategist and Facebook advertising knowledge bank.
Welcome back to the podcast. How are you? Wow, I can't believe we're literally getting close to the end of the year. It's only just over a week to go until Christmas. And as I was preparing for this podcast, I was sitting here and thinking about the year gone by and how much of a blur it's actually been. But also I was sitting here in gratitude, and I'm so grateful that we spent those maybe 4 months in lockdown, like really hard months. It was hard. It was really, really hard. But I am actually grateful that we did it, because it means that we now have 0 cases in Victoria, Australia, where I live, and we mostly have our freedom back to enjoy the summer. And yeah, as hard as it was not being able to go more than 5 kilometers from home and only 1 hour outside a day, I am so glad that we did it. So if you are in another part of the world and you're in lockdown, I'm sending you a really big virtual hug, because I know how hard it is to be in lockdown. But as someone who's gone through it and we're at the other end now, I can also say that it was definitely worth it. So stay safe, and it will pass. We will get through this. So I've actually started planning out some of my upcoming Facebook ads campaigns, and as well as, creating strategies for my clients. And one super important part of running Facebook ads is to make sure that you show them to the right people. Sounds obvious, right? But Facebook ads audiences and targeting seems to be, still quite a challenging part of ads. So today I want to dive a little bit deeper into Facebook ads audiences. And really, today's episode is specifically for those who have service-based businesses or are course creators or coaches, because I'm going to talk about, a little bit more about list building ads. So if your business relies on list building and getting leads, this is the episode for you, especially when you want to learn a little bit more about audiences. So let's dive deeper into Facebook ads audiences. And like I said, it's very obvious. Who you show your ad to is super important, and it will actually determine whether or not you'll see the conversions that you want to get. And I hear a lot of people say things like, Facebook ads don't work for me, or I spent $100 on Facebook ads and I didn't get any sales, or I boosted a few posts, but all I got was a few likes. And you may have heard me speak of aligning Facebook ads, like the ads goals, to the actual objectives available in Facebook ads, because this is super important. You can't expect sales if your advertising campaign isn't optimized for it. There are a lot of neat tricks that you can do, and the more advanced Facebook ads managers will use this, but it is so important that you know what your objective is and actually use the tools inside of Facebook ads to reach those objectives. And on top of that, you can't expect sales if you're advertising to the wrong crowd. It's just not going to happen. There are actually a lot of elements that need to be aligned before you see results, aka sales, from Facebook ads. So let's look into what type of advertising you can use, and what kind of audiences you can use and how to best use each of them when it comes to advertising. So we'll start off with a cold audience. And a cold audience basically is a list of people, or basically people who have never heard of you before. They haven't had any contact with you or your brand. They do not know you at all. They don't know what you provide. They don't know what you do. And most of the time they'll actually will be a little bit more hesitant in seeking more information from you, because they are cold and they need to learn to trust you first. So when we are advertising to a cold audience, the aim is to invite them to visit your website or to subscribe to your email list. And This audience type is one you have to do a little bit more research for and know what your ideal client loves, where they live, what their demographics are, etc. So you want to research characteristics such as, specific geographic regions, even, within certain kilometers of certain postcodes. You might want to look at demographic information like age and gender. Think about things like interests, for example, particular sports or hobbies, life events. For example, have they just gotten married, or have they just become parents, or are they parents of older children? Think about all of that. And then think about if they might be following specific pages. And the whole targeting other page fans is an option in Facebook ads, but it only works for those pages that Facebook has indexed. So they must be kind of popular, but there's never really a guarantee that a large page is even indexed. But think about, what kind of pages might your ideal client already be following, especially in your area of expertise, but also so for example, here in Australia, if I were to target mums, I would also think about pages like, Kmart hacks, or, that kind of things. So think outside the box. Where else might your ideal client be spending their time? So actually a great example of this is for one of my clients whose target audience is crystal healers. So they're crystal healers. So for her, we targeted a page called, so fans of the page that are interested in crystals, and the page is actually called Earth Family Crystals, because that is a larger page, and we know that crystal healers are likely to be following or interested in large crystal shops such as Earth Family Crystals. So yeah, think outside the box. Where else might your ideal client be spending their time? Also, targeting fans of pages that are aligned with your audience is a great way to leverage other audiences. So if you have a program on, yoga, or like a yoga teacher program, think about, okay, well, I could be targeting fans of yoga brands. It becomes a little bit broader, and they might not all be interested in becoming yoga teachers. So you might need to narrow that down a little bit more. Another method is to create a lookalike audience. And you might have heard this term before. And a lookalike audience is an audience that Facebook finds based on certain criteria that you enter. For example, you can create a lookalike audience of people who are already like your Facebook page, or people who already engage with you on Instagram, or people who have already visited your website. So you can then tell Facebook to find me an audience that looks like the criteria that you have set. So the way a lookalike audience works is that Facebook will look at the characteristics of your Facebook, for example, Facebook fan base, if that's the criteria that you said, and find more people with those characteristics. It's really clever, right? So a big mistake that I see businesses make is that they try to persuade people who have never even heard of them into a sale. So if you were to advertise to a cold audience and you'd want them to buy your product, it's basically the equivalent of approaching a stranger on the street and say, buy my product, it's great. I don't know, what do you expect will happen, right? So I know I would even be too shy to do that, but yeah, it's most of the time you get a no. I do that with people who, try to sell me stuff on the streets. It's like, no way. So yeah, taking this approach on Facebook will firstly drive up the price of your ads, because the amount of your target audience who will actually click through isn't high compared to other types. And secondly, people are more likely to just ignore your ads because they have no relationship with your brand yet, which means they don't know who you are, they don't know what the product is, and they don't really know if they can trust you yet, especially if you sell something that is a slightly higher price point. The only time I have seen sales ads to a cold audience work is if you have a product that doesn't really need much buying consideration. So if it's like a low price product and the buyer doesn't really feel the need to build a relationship with your brand, then it could work. Like some e-commerce brands, it actually works for. So the actual proven strategy for a cold audience is to offer something for free, or at the very, very least, a low price. So you might have seen ads for like $27 products. So it captures their interest and then it directs them to your website. And the aim is really to get them to go on your email list. At the very minimum, to go over to your website, but ideally onto your email list. So my preferred method is to direct them to a mailing list, because sending to a website can often overwhelm, and people who are overwhelmed don't take action. So whereas on your mailing list, you get the time and the chance to nurture them with an email sequence. And there are actually a few proven ways to encourage someone to leave Facebook, to visit your website, or to subscribe to your mailing list. So one of them is showcasing an amazing blog post or a video that you have up on your site. So you send your traffic to one page only to take one action only. And in this case, the action is to consume the content on your blog or your video. Another way is inviting the audience to subscribe to your opt-in, like a freebie, such as a checklist, a fact sheet, or an email course. Or you can invite your audience to attend a special event, such as a webinar or a video. So as an ad strategist, I basically spend my days creating images and writing copy, and there are a few things that I've seen that work and some don't. I recommend that you create at least 2 variations of everything, but ideally more. This means that you have 2 variations of copy. One can be a long form copy and one can be a short form copy with less than 200 words. The aim is to test whether the short form or the long form copy works for your audience. So you actually want to have a number of different copy and a number of different images so that you can test what is going to work. A tip for your ads images is to use colors that contrast Facebook's blue. So think about strong colors like red, orange, yellow, bright pink. If that's not in your branding, okay, then you probably don't want to use it, but use a number of different images to test to see what works. And don't forget to include a strong call to action and then link to where you want people to go and sign up. The next audience I want to discuss with you is a warm audience. And actually the next 3 audiences are going to be warm audiences. The first warm audience I want to talk about is people that are not on your list yet. These are people who have visited your website or are following your Facebook page, but they're not on your email list yet. And what you want to do with your ads is turn these fans into subscribers and to get them onto your email list. But before we start talking about how you can do this, I want to talk about the Facebook ads pixel, because the next part is where having your pixel installed becomes really crucial. So your pixel is a little bit of code that you can use to track certain actions on your website. And I have a whole blog series on the pixel that I will link in the show notes, because it's really, really important that you have this pixel installed before you do any advertising. So the warm audience can be reached using your Facebook pixel, provided that you have it installed. So you need to install it, and then you can use all of this. So having your pixel installed means that anytime someone goes to your website, if they log into Facebook at the same time, Facebook will track that. So in the future, you can actually use this audience to create a retargeting audience, and show an ad to people who have visited your website in, for example, the last 30, 60, 180 days. So yeah, it's really cool that you can actually show ads to people who have already had some interaction with your website or your brand. So these are people that have identified themselves as kind of curious in your offerings, because they have been, in contact with you in some way. So the aim is to convert fans into subscribers, for which the proven method is to advertise a free offer. You can promote your email opt-in freebie or a special event like a webinar or a workshop or a challenge, whatever it is that you have. So the idea is that, these people have had some form of interaction with you, but they're not on your list yet. So you want to get them on your list so that you can nurture them. even though this audience is somewhat warm, don't make the mistake of putting a sales offer in front of them, because they need much more familiarity and trust with your brand. You can actually, when you are creating your ads, you can put some brand elements into your ads, like in your images. You can put, some of your brand elements in there, or if you're like a service-based business, you can include a photo of yourself in it, because they have a little bit more familiarity with your brand. And again, create multiple lengths of copy and a number of images to test what works best for your audience. Facebook is all about testing. So our next audience is, again, a warm audience, but it's a product-specific audience. So basically, this audience consists of people who have visited a specific product or sales page on your website, but they didn't buy or take another action. And you'll actually see this type of audience regularly in like the e-commerce ad space. The aim is to invite them back and persuade them to purchase the item they're looking at, basically. And for this, you need to get slightly more elaborate with your pixel, really. This type of audience and targeting requires 2 pixels at a minimum. So you need a view content event pixel. And so that tracks who has viewed the page. And then you need a purchase event pixel that tracks the completion of a purchase. Having those 2 installed at a minimum means that you can create a custom audience of those people who have viewed a specific product page but didn't make a purchase. So the ad you can create for this type of audience is very specific, because you are directly reminding them of the product or service they just viewed. And you might have seen these kind of ads in the past when you go to like some big online store and then you look at something on there, like a dress. And then when you're on Facebook, minutes later, that dress is basically following you around. It can be a little bit creepy. So this is actually called retargeting or abandoned cart campaign. And you can do the same thing, like as long as you have your pixel set up. So it's really cool. And then the next warm audience is those who are on your list. And this audience consists basically of people who are on your email list, but they have not purchased yet. And the aim of using an audience like this in your campaigns, and the aim for your ads campaign is to convert your subscribers into buyers. And the way you can do this is by firstly integrating or importing your subscriber list into the Facebook ads platform. So there's actually an option to import directly from, for example, ActiveCampaign or MailChimp or some other email marketing platforms, or you can export a CSV file and then upload it as a custom audience. So you can actually create an audience of everyone who's on your list, or specific segments of your list that you can then run ads to, retargeting ads to entice them to purchase your product or your service. Facebook will actually only use the email addresses that it recognizes. So for example, if someone has signed up to your list using a different email address than the one they use for their Facebook account, it means that Facebook doesn't recognize it. So you won't really get every single person on your list onto your custom audience list, but you should be able to get a really good portion of it on there. Now, the strategy that you want to use to actually run these campaigns kind of require a little bit of, pre-planning and thinking. So because these people that are on your list have willingly given you their email address, you may assume that they are interested in what you offer. Or at least if you segment them out, and you can run campaigns for a specific product that segment was interested in. The strategy to use with a warm audience is basically one of converting your subscribers to buyers, so you can be a bit more direct in your sales promotion, as long as you have nurtured them for some time through your email address, through your email sequences. So you can't really have the person subscribe today and tomorrow you start selling to them. That doesn't work. You need to warm them up with an email nurture sequence. And a warm audience is a great audience to start promoting your entry-level products, but there's not really a rule for what the sequence of your offerings should be. Even though I recommend making the offer to them in an email directly, using an advertising, like a retargeting campaign, reinforces your message, and also make sure you add to people who didn't open your email. So that actually shows that people have to see message multiple times before they actually convert to buyers. And I run a lot of retargeting campaigns for my clients, and they do so well. That's why we run them. So do run them, but also sell in your email campaigns. So with this type of ad and campaign and audience, you can safely assume that your audience knows your brand and will recognize it. So you can use branding colors and elements and your own images. And you can start to use longer form copy, although I always recommend testing everything. Like if you use longer form copy, put some dot points in there that really talk about the benefits of the offer and what they will gain or lose by purchasing or not purchasing. Test long form copy, test short form copy. Always have a number of different options for copy available. And the last audience I want to talk to you about is a hot audience. And in marketing terms, we classify a hot audience as those who have already purchased from you. So we often forget that it's much easier to convert someone who has already purchased from us to buy from us again. It's a low-hanging fruit. If they have purchased something from you and they love their product, they, could potentially be invited back. So the aim is to invite the customer to repurchase or purchase a higher-end product or service. So if you've been using the Facebook pixels, you can actually set up your ads using the purchase pixel on your website and target only those who have triggered the purchase pixel. Or you can manually upload your list of buyers to Facebook and do it that way. So basically, this method of advertising is proven to be really powerful, especially if you sell things that people, do very often or that they need to replace very often. For example, a chiropractor you might need to see, every 6 weeks or so. Things that regularly occur, massages, dentists, chiropractors, or you might sell something more consumable that needs replacing every 3 months. For example, toilet paper. I know, a little bit of a weird one, but yeah, we purchase online from a brand called Who Gives a Crap, and it's great when I see retargeting ads because it reminds me that I need to order toilet paper. And this strategy also works well for things like seasonal offers, like fashion or specific holidays, such as Mother's Day. So yeah, definitely get onto it with your hot audiences. Don't forget them just because they've purchased once. Yeah, definitely invite them back. Another way you can use this is by advertising to people who have purchased an entry-level product. And now you can advertise to them to invite them to purchase the next product up in your tiers. So if you are list building using a self-liquidating offer, so an SLO offer, slow offer, you definitely want to create a funnel that then gets them into a higher price product. Again, with this type of ad, you can assume that your audience knows your brand and will recognize it. So you can use your brand colors, your elements in your images. And it's kind of like the same as your warm audience that's on your list. You can start using some longer form copy, but again, test it against short form copy, test multiple images. Facebook is all about testing all the time. So hopefully that clarifies the mystery of Facebook ads audiences a little bit for you. You can see how much there is to gain from using Facebook ads in a way where you are targeting your audience based on where they're at in the buying cycle. So think about the buying cycle. Where are they at right now? Do they know me? Do they not know me? People take a little bit of time to warm up to us and to our brand. So it's our duty to help them to get to know us and guide them on their customer journey. Sometimes it can actually take months or even years before someone is ready to make a purchase. And we just need to spend that time with them. And by spending time on growing our list and nurturing our audiences, you'll not only save money in potentially failed advertising, but you can actually significantly increase your chances of making sales as you are retargeting those who already have an interest in your business and your offer. So That's it for this week's episode. I suggest that you sit down with some paper and map out your audiences and how you can use them in your next advertising campaign. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the New School of Marketing podcast. If you're ready to take your business to the next level with Facebook and Instagram advertising, make sure you visit newschoolofmarketing.com to download practical free resources. Plus, subscribe to the podcast and never miss an episode. I can't wait to go on this journey with you. Until next time, take care and market your business every day.